All right, thank you, everybody. All right, so again, my name is Stephen Jennings. We're going to be talking about best practices for CRM 2013 to cover goals. So we'll go a little through an introduction. So what we're going to focus on today is goals, the what, the how, and the why. We're also going to go over the entities, goals, goal metrics, roll-up queries. We'll go over our best practices that we've gone through over the last years. We'll do some demonstrations of the revenue goals and cases goals, and then if you guys have any Q&A questions, please let me know. All right, so Joan, are you able to hear us now? I know you had a quick question regarding that. All right, thank you so much. Okay, so who am I? Again, for those who have never attended one of my webinars, my name is Stephen Jennings. You can reach me at this email address, and if you guys have questions regarding this or any future stuff, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to answer any questions that you guys have, or if you're interested in using affiliated in the future, please let us know. So I've been doing over 30 implementations from CRM 4.0 to 2013. We also have a blog. If you guys are curious, you're more than welcome to review our blog. We try to post up some information as possible. Actually, our newest thing we just posted up talks about the new roll-up that's coming up for the spring release that's coming up. So that should be good for 2013. All right, so let's talk about goals. Now, the goals we're going to cover today are really going to be focused around 2013 and 2011. They work on both. So when you actually look at it, they really are very similar between them both. Microsoft did not make a lot of major changes from 2011 to 2013 regarding the goals, mainly because they worked really well, and as their process was, why change something that is actually working? So let's talk about the what. So CRM allows you, again, I'm not going to read all this, so you guys can go ahead and go through it, but CRM allows you to do sales marketing, customer service, and it actually lets you do custom entities. So you can actually create goals on custom entities that you do in the CRM system. So if you have something that you specifically designed in CRM and you want to reference a goal against it, you definitely can. The goals are going to be at an individual level, but you can also have them rolling up to a sales team. That can roll up to a sales division, which can then roll up to the organization company. I'm not going to be demonstrating that today. Today I'm going to be really demonstrating the basic functionality of goals, but it does have the capability to do a lot of roll-ups. All right. Let's talk about the how. So we're able to customize and tailor a lot of this information. So you're able to pick a time period. You can do your fiscal period or a custom period. You have your targets. What is this about? You have the goal owner, the manager, and the metrics. So each one of these we're going to go into more detail about. The owner is the person who is responsible, and then you have a manager. In CRM, a manager can create a goal for their salesperson, and that salesperson may not have the security rights to actually create the goal, but they can see the goal that's assigned to them. So managers can go through and actually create the goals for them without them creating it, because a lot of times if you give a salesperson the ability to have a goal, they might change it to make themselves look better. I'm not saying they will, but there is always that possibility. But as a manager, they can actually be the one that is responsible for creating those. And then the metrics. The metrics can be based off of monetary accounts or an integer within the system. All those are possible. And of course, the fact is, why do we even have goals in the system? So here's a little statement that talks about. So a lot of salespeople, cases, actually just anybody who has a goal in the CRM system, a lot of them, they talk about failing to achieve their goals because of lack of planning. A lot of people may not know what their goals are. So, for example, I've done some stuff in a government company where after a while, once we set up the goals, we actually knew that you had to have 4 times the amount of opportunities in your pipeline to achieve your goal. And that was actually done because we actually put goals in CRM, and we can do the metrics over the time period. Because with government, things are active, they get closed, they get pushed, they get moved, but every quarter, if their goal was $250,000, they knew as a salesperson they had to have $1 million in their pipeline for that quarter, because they know 1/4 of that will actually become real dollars for them. So they can use that gauge to help them out. So the goals really help the sales team and make them understand what they needed. You can also do this for customer service. Customer service has cases that they're resolving. Or if you had an inside person and you said, you know what, I need you to make 100 cold calls this month, you definitely can do that. So they can actually make some phone calls and they can do some of that. You can actually use it from a marketing point of view. So when you're setting out marketing materials and you guys have a goal to say, okay, from this marketing event that I'm going to be doing, I need so many leads to come in. You can actually then take those leads and see how they convert to an opportunity, and those opportunities get to dollars. So from a marketing point of view, you can say, all right, I'm going to blast 1,000 emails. I'm going to expect 200 of those as responses, maybe 10 of those would be opportunities, and 5 of those would be wins. So you can set yourself goals in the system as well, even from a marketing point of view. So it's not really designed around sales or customer service, but you can marketing. And then again, if you guys have custom entities in your system, you can define some goals within those. All right, so here we have our goals best practice worksheet. At the end, Joseph Mannion, our solution sales executive, will be emailing everyone this best practice worksheet. And again, it does work for 2011 and 2013. They're very similar between them. But we'll cover a little bit about it right now. So the biggest thing, if you've ever listened to any of our best practices, is naming convention. The reason why is because it helps when you guys are utilizing the system, because when you have a lot of information in here, it could take time to sort through it. So naming convention is critical. So the first thing we're going to talk about is fiscal period. Well, if you're focusing on 2014, that's really what it's going to be. So maybe it's Q1 2014, and again, the owner. Who is the owner? So myself, Stephen Jennings, or if there was another person. And then what is the goal that I'm working on? Is there a revenue goal? Is it a case management goal? Is it just a phone call count goal? What are we talking about? Because when you have, example, 10 salespeople in your group, each one of those has a goal per quarter. That's 40 goals in the system. That's just 10 salespeople. If you've got 50, 100, and you want to go through your sales cycle from a monthly instead of a quarterly, you see how that can get very large. So again, naming convention is going to be very helpful. Same thing with goal metrics. We've got the entity and the type of description. So the entity would be, is it a case, a phone call, an opportunity, orders, whatever you like. You can definitely do those. The big thing that we also talk about is agree to a fiscal standard, because when you're setting up, and I'll show you guys how to set this up in your company, you can actually set up your fiscal standards in the CRM system to say, okay, we are going to be a quarterly based company. We could be a monthly based company. We can be a 4-4-5, I think that's one of the options, or we can even just be a yearly. When you set up your fiscal standards, it's global across the entire organization. If each department does it differently, you're going to have to pick one fiscal standard, and that department can be unique because you can do your goals based off a custom period if you needed to. But again, you got to agree to a fiscal standards. And of course, the big thing that we always talk about is you want to test, test, test. So before you're rolling these out to your sales team, definitely test a few to make sure it's going to actually give you the metrics you're wanting to do. And then we also talk about on the sheet to talk about mapping and document before you start it. It's much easier to do in an Excel document or a Word document that you can map out exactly what your expectation is and then implement in the system. Again, a lot of times when I work with my clients, I will go through and do a lot of training when it comes to goals. I'm happy to set them up, but usually I'll set up 1 or 2. They get comfortable with it, and they can basically manage and create a lot of these. So if you guys need help in the future, please let me know. All right, so now we're going to go actually into the demonstration. I'm going to walk you through some dashboards and charts of some goals that we've set up, how they work, how to set one up, how to modify it, and basically some understanding of it. And then in the end, if you guys have questions, please let me know. All right. So here we have our CRM system with a dashboard. So this one right here, I'm going to make it a little bit bigger for you guys. This talks about, here is my goal for this period. So my period is this quarter because that's what I've defined it, and I'll show you where you can change that. This talks about my overall goal. So I have my actual money. The way I've set this one up, it's actual opportunities that I've won. So when I have an opportunity that is open, that is my in-progress money. So that's right here. I've got my in-progress money of what I've got total. If I mouse over it, I've got $191,000 of my in-progress money. And then I have my actual money, which is about $150,000. Then I have right here, which is my goal. My goal is $250,000. So at the moment, I'm doing pretty good towards what I'm interested in doing because I've got to get this achieved. Now, this talks about my fiscal period. My fiscal period is coming up very shortly, so I really need to start closing some of these opportunities to really get towards my goal. Because at the moment, I'm missing about $150,000. This little arrow shows about where my target money is for today. Where should I be today towards my goal? It tells me I've got $140,000. Come on. And $110 remaining. So that tells me based off where the fiscal period starts and when the fiscal period ends, how am I doing today? It's really what that number is. So a salesperson can say, you know what, at this point, if I look at it, I'm doing awesome because based off where that is and where my goal is. So this is really mine. So what's nice about it is you guys can put these goals for a salesperson in a dashboard. They can focus on their open opportunities. They can focus on their in-progress money. They can focus on things that they're dealing with. What we've also found when you actually start to put these goals in the CRM system, even internally at Affiliated, we've had a lot of competition internally, you know, good friendly banter that you guys have. It talks about, oh, great, you know, I've got so many opportunities, I get goals, I get points, and it becomes a little bit of a competition. You've probably heard some things in the past. They call it gamification, where it's a way of getting salespeople to actually put something in the system because they are going to be, they can visually see how am I doing, how is my other sales representative doing, and it's very competitive. We've done it internally at our OneSource group, where we put these two big, massive monitors up that talks about where our goals, you know, we have our SLAs with our customers, our service level agreements. They've been visually up front, so they get very excited about it. You know, how quickly can I close a case that is correct, of course, that we can allow our systems to see visually on the screen, and they get very excited about it because they can see the better they do as a group, as a company, because they want to achieve that goal, it's a visual representation for them. And I've seen sales teams do it. You know, if they close so many opportunities in a week, you know, maybe their manager gives them a gift card of some sort or takes them out to lunch. But it's a way of having that information in the system. And again, it really helps with adoption because part of the challenges we've always had is, you know, a lot of people I work with that they're very comfortable in Outlook, they're very comfortable in Excel, they're very comfortable in writing it on a piece of paper, but how do we get it in the CRM system and make them want to do it to the point where if I take this away, they're all screaming because they really want to use the tool. So having goals in the system could be a benefit for you that'll allow them to see how they're progressing and what they're doing. All right, so let's go through, I've got a few more dashboards and I've got a few more things to show you. Let's go through some of the settings functionality. We'll show you where to change some fiscal periods. So under the Microsoft Dynamics CRM, we're going to go to Settings. And under the Administration, under Settings, there's the Administration section. And there's what's called, we have System Settings. All right, so then we have our goals section. So the goals is talking about roll-ups. So anytime you have a goal in the system, it's not instantaneously when something happens. So the CRM system actually does roll-up frequency So what that means is if I close an opportunity that I won today, it may not show up on my chart until tomorrow because the system needs to go through and auto-calculate of how many that are open, how many that are closed, how many that have been processed. So all this has to be done through the roll-up frequency. I have mine set to run once a day, but you can have it set if you really want to, you can set it up once an hour. So every hour this would reflect. So this is something that you guys can go through and see what's happening. Days after the goal end, when the goal roll-ups will stop, is 30 days. This is just, I guess CRM makes me put 24 hours. I guess you can make it longer. I guess you have to wait a day. Sorry about that. And this just talks about the goals of when the roll-up will stop. All right. We'll say OK. So those are the goals. So let's go to the goals section as well. So under Microsoft CRM, under Sales, we go to Sales, and then we'll scroll all the way to the right. That's where I got mine. We have our goals. So here are our goals. So if I switch the view to active goals, you can see all active goals that are actually in the organization. Now, you can see by the naming convention, I can actually sort these. I have Q1, 2014, Q2, 2014, Q2, so these two are together, and then so forth. So the reason I've done this way is I can go through and say, show me all my Q2s for all my salespeople, and I can group those, and I can make modifications, and I can see what's happening. You could, if you wanted to group by year, you could do years and quarter. Just that naming convention, I'll leave up to you guys of what makes sense. But you can see I have 5 right now. I'm all by myself. If I did this monthly, I'd have 12 plus whatever else I'm working on. It can get very big. So let's go ahead and open one up. And let's talk about it. So again, naming. Fiscal period, person, what is it about? It's revenue. You can also have parent goals. So these are the roll-ups that I talked about. So if you wanted to create a goal for your practice, so if I wanted to do like the CRM practice and I want to see globally how am I doing, I can go through and create a parent goal for CRM that everything rolls up to. So Stephen Jennings would be under the CRM parent role. So what would happen is when my goal rolls up, it will then roll up to the parent, and I can look at CRM to say, okay, CRM may have, $10 million for the year, and then what I'm supposed to help with rolls up to that total. So each salesperson can roll up towards those. And again, you can build this in many ways. You can have salespeople roll up to managers that have managers underneath them. You can have salespeople that roll up to their departments, to their business unit, to the overall company, because at an executive level, they really want to see how am I doing by the system. And it's another way from an adoption point of view, because the more opportunities you get in the system, you can see how am I doing towards my goal for the organization. So you can easily see what's in there. Then the next section we have is goal metrics. What am I creating this metric about? So this one actually has one called opportunity revenue. So let's go ahead and click on that. We'll dive into this one a little bit more. So again, my entity and what's it about. My metric type, count or amounts. Once you select a metric type, you cannot go back and change it. You basically have to delete it and come back. Then the amount is money. So this is the one I'm focusing on, money. Then over here, you're going to do your roll-ups. What am I defining these as? So the first one I've got is in-progress money. Estimated revenue of my opportunities that are open. So if I have an opportunity that is open, I'll go through here and say, okay, here's my estimated revenue, my source type is open, my record type is that, and I'm focusing on my estimated close date. So all of these are defined by what fields you want. Since it's money, it's only going to show things that are money in here. And then over here, this is my status types, open, won, or lost. And then if I wanted to, I can go to the status reasons as well. So if I wanted to focus on all ones that are open by a status reason, I can do that as well. In the past, I've had a few people ask me to say, okay, I'm focusing on this, and they want to see this opportunity that is rolled up to a product. How do I get goals based off of product? That one's a little difficult to get to. There are ways of using the system, but out of the box, things like that to a physical product is not quite what's in there. You'd almost have to create a goal against the products themselves and do it that way. You can't really do it against the actual opportunities, because the opportunities are really based off of who the owner is and whether they're open or what some of their statuses are there. So again, you can focus strictly on in progress, and you don't really care about ones on hold. At this point, I don't really care. I'm going to grab both. And then over here talks about opportunity and then estimated close date. So I want to focus on what my estimated close date. So this is all my information of this is my total amount. So when I gave you guys the example of the government had to have $1 million, this is what the criteria would be. So I want opportunities where the estimated revenue, where it's open, and the estimated close date is in my fiscal period. That's what all this cares about. And you can go ahead and create several of these. The next one I care about is my actual money. So this is my in progress versus my actual. So this was my blue line, and this was my orange line. Or I have them backward. Either way, they're different colors. So the actual money, this is where I care about here. So I've got my opportunities, my actual revenue based off wins, or my actual close date. The challenge I have with this one, now this one does work, but it really makes your sales team be very important about the actual money that they put in there. So, for example, if you have an open opportunity and it's $50,000, and your salesperson works, and at the very end it is $45,331. That is the actual amount that's actually going to be closing. If the salesperson doesn't put in the actual revenue amount when they close, by default, CRM will take the estimated and put it in the actual, and it doesn't give a true number at that point, because it all depends on how well the data is being maintained in CRM. But again, goals are something that you guys can use that going to be a metric that you can go against. A lot of times, if companies want to, what I'll recommend doing is instead of going to the actual money of the opportunity, create a new one. We'll go to the orders of the total amount of the date fulfilled or date submitted, one of the two, depending on what you guys want. So what this means is every year you guys probably have an ERP system that actually tracks the actual dollars that come in the system. So a lot of clients, we can write an integration to go back from orders into CRM to get that data in there, or once a month we can create a data map that they're going to upload into the system, and once a month they can go through and upload the orders in the system and get actual monies. And then your goals can reflect what your open opportunities against actual real dollars based off the orders entity in CRM. So you get a more true number based off what your ERP system has. So it kind of varies depending on what your goal will be, if you want to go against orders or if you're okay with the one opportunities in CRM. But your sales team has to be very diligent about putting that in there and actually putting the correct amount. A lot of times they don't know. I mean, it's some of the things where they think it's this amount, but with taxes and changes and information down the road, it may not give them true numbers. So again, you could do a monthly upload into the orders so you have open to actuals, real numbers that people can actually go through and say, how am I really doing towards my goals? Especially if managers are expecting to use this as a metric for their review with their sales team to see how they're doing. And it's actually a pretty good tool, especially if you've got salespeople all over the world and the manager's at a local office, but you have people in different states. Having it in CRM could be a great way for you guys to get on a go-to webinar, go-to meeting, and talk about some information while not physically being there, and you guys are both on the same page. Okay, so that is the goal metrics. Close this guy out. All right, so then we talk about our time period. So fiscal period. We have our fiscal period that I've defined as quarterly based, Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4, and then my fiscal year. So you guys can define all your fiscal years, and you can actually create your goals all the way up to 2038. That is quite a bit of goals. But what's nice about it is if you get your goals in November of this year, you can actually start defining your goals for next year and get them all prepped and ready. And then they talk about where you're from and your to is. So, yep. And then right here talks about your target money. And again, this is target money based off of the owner. Not products, not divisions. It's really defined based off this particular owner. So me, this would be mine. I have $250,000 of what I have in here. The children goals are, if this was a parent, it would show all the children underneath it. And then down here, this is actually where the fun part is. You have your actual money compared to your in-progress money to your percent achieved. So at the moment, I have achieved 60% of my goal. So based off when it's ending, in the end of June, my achievement period is about right on spot. I'm not excelling, I'm not doing worse, I'm pretty much right where I need to be at this moment. And then over here you got some goal criteria. Roll-up only from child goals, roll-up set for roll-ups, owned by goal owner or all, and then you have a few more information, and of course you can always add some additional notes if you wanted to. And then what's cool about this one is you can actually go here on the left-hand side and see actual money. So you can see the opportunities that generated towards those goals. So if you're looking at the goal itself, you can say, okay, what opportunities did I actually do to win this? In my in progress, what do I have that's currently open that I can see that I need to start focusing on to close to get towards my true goals? Okay. And over here is my recalculate button. So at any point, you can force a recalculate during the day. So if you don't want to wait, you can actually force it and it could change the numbers. So we'll go through and I'll close one of those opportunities and show you how this can actually come through. Okay, so we'll close this one out. We'll go to my next one, which is cases, because the rest of these are revenue based off different fiscal periods. And this view right here will show you that information to say, okay, my target, my percent achieved, my actual, my in progress, and of course the goal metric, and then if there was a parent associated to as well. I'm actually going to do the next one. It's going to be based off cases. So if you have a customer service group that you want to keep track of cases that are actually in the system, and these would be tickets, problems, concerns, you can track those as well too, because as a person resolving cases, you want to have metrics for them as well too. Now, this one is a metric based off of counts, so the number of cases. So it's really hard to do a metric against number of cases, but you can do ones on resolution time. So if a duration, so you could say, you know what, for each case that we have in the system, I'm going to give you a 2-hour resolution goal. How am I doing towards that goal of resolving cases within a 2-hour period? Now, over time, you'll figure out the true numbers, but you'll have to give something internally to see how we're doing. All right, so this talks about my target, which is 10, my cases, which is number of cases. I'm actually going to click on this one because this one is different and unique. I'm focusing on count. I don't have my amount data type because I don't need it. Over here, this talks about my actual, the roll-up field, my actual cases that are resolved, and the time is my modified on. So what this tells me is I want to keep track of every case that is resolved where the date modified, which is the last time I touched it. You could pick when the follow-up by created on, record created on. I just did modified because whenever you close an opportunity as resolved, it's locked at that point, so the modified on is the very last date that could be touched. That's my roll-up field here. And then over here, this is my metric on this one. Close this metric. Again, my fiscal period, my target is 10. So my target for Q2 is to have 10 cases that are assigned to me resolved. That is really what my goal is. This could actually be used for cold calls. That would be another avenue you guys can use for counts. So If you have an inside salesperson or even a junior salesperson that you hired and say, look, your job every day, I'm going to give you 10 phone numbers to call, and every day you have to have those 10 phone numbers called and resolved and made in the CRM system so you can keep track of phone calls that are being made in the system. Per day, per week, per month, per quarter, however you guys want to do it, you definitely can keep track of that information. And then I'll actually keep track of my actuals compared to my percentage, and my actuals compared to my total, which gives me my percent achieved, which is 10%. So at the moment, I've done 10% of my goals during this period. And then I can go through here and actually see the cases that have been resolved. So I can see, oh, look, this case was resolved. It was created on this date, but recently resolved. Okay, so let's go through some of these, and we'll show how some of these change. So I'm going to go to sales. I'm going to go to opportunities. And let's create a brand new opportunity so you guys can see. All right, so we're going to call this blue bike. I want a blue bike. All right, so my estimated revenue, I'm going to say it's $50,000. My estimated close date, because again, that's the date I focused on. And again, it can be any date in this opportunity. Now, the one I'm focusing on today is estimated close date, but in the future, if I wanted to, I can make it any other date. I could say I want to keep track of all created opportunities in the quarter. You can do that as well too. So I'm going to say this would be June 17th. So that's my estimated close date. My estimated revenue is that. I don't really need any other information, so I'm just going to hit save. All right, so I've got my blue bike in there for this date, for this time information. So if I go ahead and go back to my goals, so that would put it in my Q2. So I'm going to open up my Q2 goal. If I scroll down, I can see there's that. My in-progress money is $191,000. Again, my percent achieved is still 60%. Last time the roll-up was done was 5 minutes ago. But I can force a recalculate. You see it changed. Now my in-progress money has changed dramatically. Now my percent achieved does not because it's still, I haven't closed anything as one, but I can see it's changed. Now, I'm not saying your sales team has to go through and click this button every single time, but as you're practicing and you're creating this and demonstrating this for individuals, you might actually have to hit the recalculate button because you don't want to wait. Especially when I'm doing these demonstrations, I do not want to wait, however long it takes, a day, a couple hours, minutes, so we can force it. So then again, my in-progress money still shows this. So if we refresh, Microsoft cached it. I can see my in-progress money has now changed. Okay, so now let's go back to our opportunities. Opportunities. So I'm going to take my blue bike. If you push it out past the fiscal period, it does go through and it does move it to the next quarter, which is fine because as salespeople talk to opportunities and they get moved around, sometimes that estimated close date does move. But the next thing I want to do is I want to close this as a win, so a 1. Now, remember what I talked about the actual revenue, the estimated revenue gets pulled in this actual revenue box right here. So, and that could be completely fine for what your business is, but I tell this as a warning or a concern as you guys are working through your opportunities and you want to close them off into the future. If you're basing off the actual revenue, I guarantee 95% of the time it's going to be whatever the estimated revenue is because most people who close opportunities will not put the actual revenue in there. Usually I try to recommend it, I try to push them towards it, but people are busy. It's just something that they not do, something that they may not remember to do. They may do it at the beginning, but forget over time, which is why the option that I usually suggest would be upload orders in the system, and you can compare open opportunities to actual orders. So that is your other opportunity of getting those done, because then someone else can manage that and make sure it's accurate. But again, for today's demonstration, I really just want to focus on opportunity to opportunity, but there's always that possibility. So I'm going to actually change this. So we can say it's actually 45. And then the actual close date, when did it close? So this is, again, that other metric of when did it close. I can change this as well. Then you can put in some more info. And if you guys hear any noise, that's probably because it's raining outside my office at the moment. All right, so we're going to say OK. My opportunity gets there. We'll go to the goals. I will then go back and refresh this. It's processing. You can see it's now changed. There's my actual money, there's my in-progress money, there's my percentage achieved. So it's gone from 60 to 78. So again, you guys get the basic understanding of how this can go. Now the one thing I want to show you is how do I put these goals onto a dashboard, and how would they look? Now that I've got my goals in here, again, the other option you guys can go through is look at goal metrics. But I really want to go to my dashboard. So in the beginning, I talked about my dashboard right here. I've created another dashboard. So now we can have all kinds of fun dashboards. How am I doing? I'll make this one a little bit bigger. So this talks about my percentage achieved. So in Q2, where I'm at, my Q1, my Q3, my Q4. So what this talks about is total target percentage achieved, where I'm at 56% of where I'm supposed to be. I'm above. So what this tells me, I'm supposed to be here, but technically I'm now above it, so I'm doing really good. We have another chart over here. It talks about where I'm at, my goals by count. So again, this talks about my count one. So I have 10, I've done 1. I should be at 6 at the moment, but I've really done 1, so I'm really under what my progress is. There's no in progress on my goals for my count because they're based off cases. And then just have a different chart over here that we could talk about today's target versus actuals, where my money is, how's it going, based off my achieved goals of where I should be, what I've done total. So again, you guys can create many different charts. Here's the performance one of where I'm at. So with the charts, you can actually create at a practice level, so you can see from a management point of view, how am I doing at a practice? And again, these are all based off the views. So simple things when you're dealing with charts and dashboards, it's all going to be based off what my view is. Now this view talks about my goals for this period, so it talks about what my count goal is as well as my revenue goal is. So they're both in here. So you would have to create different views for that salesperson to show just revenue instead of count if they're doing both. Normally they're not doing both, they're just doing one or the other. But they're all, again, based off the view information. They can see how am I doing. So my goal is here. Technically I'm right here. I'm almost got 400,000, so I'm doing really good based off my goal. I can see how it's going. You can actually then show this chart based off of how am I doing for Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4, because, again, while they are working on this current quarter, they will be thinking about Q3 and Q4. It's also a great way of doing projections moving forward on other information. So if you're trying to project or create a backlog of possibilities, you can put those in here as well. All right. So let's go to the cases real quick. All right, so got my cases. So I'm actually going to, let's do this. Let's close them one at a time. So we'll resolve a couple of cases. And if you wanted to keep track of the duration on cases, you can actually look at right here where it talks about billable time. So if you wanted to focus on what the total time would be, you know, this case is 5 minutes, this case is 10 minutes, this is 20, this took me 2 hours, 2 days, 3 months. You can actually keep track of what the total time is or what you actually bill towards your clients or what you're keeping track of. So you can do that as well too. Instead, you don't have to do count. You can actually do based off of total time or billable time if you wanted to. The reason I'm doing this, I'm just showing you guys the count information. So then if we go back to sales and then our goals, we'll recalculate real quick. You can see now I'm at 4, so I've achieved 40% of what it is because I just closed 3 cases. I already had one that is out there, and I can see where my achievement is. I'm going to show you real quick goal metrics that you can actually attach these metrics to a custom entity as well. So when you're building a metric, you can say, actually my custom entity is called test, so we'll just call it test. I could do based off of my account record. And then if you wanted to, you could do amount data type, but we'll leave that blank. So this right here doesn't actually link to the entity you're focusing on. This really is just a header record. Your roll-up fields actually tell you where and which entity you're going to be linking this to. So if I add a new roll-up field, right here, I can go through here and say, here's my actual integers. I can do a custom roll-up or I can do an in progress. So I can say custom roll-up field, and then my source record type. These are all the entities that are in the CRM system that I could focus on. So you can do accounts, appointments, campaigns, cases, any entity that's in the system you guys can keep track of. And then if I scroll all the way to the bottom, I actually created a custom entity called test. So you can actually do it based off custom entity. So you're not focused to be in the entities that Microsoft creates. So you can go ahead and create as many as you want for any custom ones that you guys desire. These can then be based off your status, whether they're active or inactive, and then what the record type. This is the status reason, this is the status, and the record type would be in here, and then whatever data field. So, you know, I can say for every test entity I create a new one that's created on, I can keep track of that. So we can do that one, and we can say save and close. So now I have a total count. So anytime I create a new one, it gets me towards my goal of that. This is more of a simplistic one, but you guys can kind of get an idea of how this could be useful. All right. So this is really what I wanted to focus on for goals. Goals are not very hard. A lot of it just goes through of the planning, the execution, how you want to use it in your system. Here at Affiliated, we definitely can assist you on how to use those in the tool. If you have any questions, please let us know. And then I'm going to turn it back over to Joseph for any follow-up. And then I'll leave the chat open if you guys have any Q&A questions. I'll try to answer them best I can. or you can go ahead and email me at my email address of steven.jennings@aresgrp.com.
Thank you, Stephen, and so thank you also, everybody, for joining us this noon hour for the webinar, Best Practices about Goals. Thank you for allowing us to show not only the presentation, but also the demonstration that Stephen just completed. Thank you very much, Stephen. As Stephen mentioned earlier, and as I mentioned, we do have an email forthcoming. They'll have a PDF of the slide deck that was presented. We have recorded this webinar as well, so that'll be on our website here in about a week. I'll send out an email once both are completed to those in attendance in case you have any questions, in case you want to reference it in the future. I did not see any questions on our webinar. If there are any questions, feel free to type them in.